3 or 4-month-old Doberman puppy was taped fast to the seat, not sitting, not lying, compressed like an object without feeling. Silver tape wrapped across her chest, binding her tiny legs, yanking her black and tan fur flat against the metal that burned under the sun. The iron bench glowed red. I could see the heat haze rising. Her little paws trembled and convulsed from the burn. Right above her head, a white piece of paper fluttered in the wind. The scrawl was a cold blade. Her name is Sora. She's soft. She's not mine. I stood frozen. Koreatown around me kept its noise, the shriek of brakes, people talking, loudspeaker calls. For me, everything else fell away. Only that small life, pinned to the seat, remained. Only that careless line of words spat in the face of the word responsibility. Passers-by kept moving. Eyes flicked, feet didn't stop. A man shook his head, flat and light. "Don't touch it. Too much trouble. Animal control will handle it." A woman tugged her bag strap, stepping away as if afraid the leather might touch that shaking body. Someone pulled out a phone and half smiled, recording this like entertainment. I wanted to scream, but my throat closed. All I heard was blood pounding in my ears. Sora made no sound, no whine, no bark. Only 2 eyes, wide open, brown wet, glinting in the sun. Those eyes fixed on me. In that look, I heard a plea louder than any sound I've ever known. She didn't need to cry. That desperate silence was enough to choke me. I could see her chest heaving, breath so shallow I thought it might stop with the next beat. Each inhale made the emaciated body shudder, as if she was fighting the very air that burned her. Under the tape, the fur was pulled tight, the skin raw and red, sweat and grime stuck to her. A child sat in a stroller, eyes wide, not taking them off the puppy. His voice rose, small and tearing through the cold air of the station. "Mom, the puppy's crying." The mother panicked, leaning down to whisper, "Don't look." She tugged at the stroller cover, trying to hide his view, but the boy craned his neck, glossy-eyed, glued to Sora, unable to believe such cruelty could exist right in front of him. The white paper fluttered again. "She's not mine." Those 4 words slapped me like a hand, sneering at the crowd's silence. My chest clenched. I thought I had grown numb to this city's indifference. I'm 48. I've lived in Los Angeles more than half my life. I've seen people abandoned on sidewalks. But this was different. This was not a collapsed body. People hurried past. This was a Doberman puppy, far too young to understand betrayal. And she was looking at me. That look stopped me. She didn't know me. Still, somehow she placed all her fragile trust in the man who happened to pass by. Behind me, whispers never stopped. "Don't touch it. What if it's sick? Touch it and you'll get fined. Leave it for whoever's responsible. All sensible, all safe, all heartless." I saw my father then, in a distant memory. He led me through damp alleys when I was a boy, and he said, "If a dog trusts you, you never turn your back." His voice, thought buried, sounded so clear I almost thought he stood beside me. I looked at Sora again. Her small body welded to the iron, her chest collapsing on itself, each breath a stutter. But those eyes would not let me go. And I knew. If I walked away, it would not just be Sora who disappeared. A piece of me would die with her. While I stood frozen, the sounds around the station burst back to life. But this time it wasn't brakes or an approaching train. It was people, murmurs, warnings, a cold tide of whispers. "Don't touch it, buddy." Too much trouble. A man's voice behind me, dry as stone on metal. I turned slightly, avoiding eyes. A few more head shakes from the people waiting for the train. They didn't look at the dog. They looked at me as if I were the problem. A woman in sunglasses, tidy office skirt, exhaled with annoyance. She pulled her purse closer and hissed to the person beside her. "Animal control will come. Don't get involved. It's dangerous." The companion nodded, stiff. "Right. The law is clear. Let the professionals handle it." Professionals. I looked at Sora. She trembled like a scrap of paper about to fall apart, breaths so shallow a strong gust might blow them away. And they called this waiting for professionals? A young man in a vest, phone in hand, smiled thinly. "Don't touch it, man. You catch rabies, you're screwed." That line lit the crowd. Heads nodded. An elderly woman pulled up her mask, stepping back as if Sora were a hazard. A man holding a coffee sneered, "Those Dobermans are vicious. If it wakes up, you'll be the one in trouble." I clenched my teeth. Words stuck in my throat. Then the child's voice rose again. The boy in the stroller, eyes huge. "Mom, the puppy's crying." The child's small voice cut through the whispering. Some heads faltered, some shoulders tightened, but reflex took over. They backed away further. The mother leaned down, whispering in panic, "Don't look. Turn away, honey. Now." Still, the boy craned upward, glossy-eyed, glued to Sora, unable to reconcile the cruelty before him with the adults who did nothing. My heart hammered. Heat spread through my chest, because that child had just said aloud what we all heard but pretended not to. "The puppy's crying." Sora made no sound, but that silence was the cry, the trembling, the ragged breaths, the pleading eyes. If you stood close, if you looked hard, you could hear it. Yet everyone chose to look away. A man behind me muttered, "If you touch it, you'll get in trouble." Another voice cut in, sharp. "Right, leave it. Rules are rules. Follow them." I felt the crowd's discomfort like a tide. Heads shook. Some scoffed. Others took a step back, as if I were about to do something foolish. But when I looked at Sora again, all that noise fell flat. She kept looking at me. Two dark brown eyes were trembling in the sun. That gaze held me. It forced me to face what was there. It refused my excuse. Somebody else will take care of it. It would not let me stand with the crowd. My father's voice rose in memory, distant and clear. "If a dog trusts you, never turn your back." I understood, sudden and plain. This moment was bigger than one puppy. It was a test for everyone standing here. And everyone failed. All that was left was me, and that gaze, and I stood there, under the blistering Los Angeles sun, feeling the world press me into a corner. Sora trembled before me, wet eyes fixed, while behind her the crowd whispered, warned, judged. A man growled again. "You touch it, you're asking for trouble." A woman shook her head, snorted. "They left it, let it be. Why bother?" Their words fell like hammers on my temples. Sensible, safe, legal, but cruel. I drew a breath, trying to shake the tightness from my chest. Then another voice rose in my head, my father's, from a distant memory. I was a child again, standing by a narrow alley in Saigon. A scrawny dog was trapped in torn netting, whining. I was scared. I wanted to run. My father put his hand on my shoulder and said softly, "If a dog trusts you, you never turn your back." He crouched, untangled the knots one by one, patient until the animal was free, trembling, but its eyes bright. That scene hit me now, sharp and clear as if it had happened yesterday, and here on the Koreatown platform, I faced the same look. Sora did not whimper. She did not cry out. She only looked. That look demanded an answer. What kind of man are you? The one who walks away like everyone else, or the one who stops? My hand shook. Not from fear of the dog, from the weight of the moment. Once I touched that tape, there was no turning back. I would take responsibility for her, and for the voice inside me. The murmurs continued. Don't be stupid. Maybe it's sick. If they left it, there must be a reason. It felt like standing between two cliffs. One edge, the safety of doing nothing. The other, a messy, possibly dangerous path. But at least I could look myself in the mirror afterward. Sunlight bounced off the iron bench and lit Sora's face. Her lips parted, breath thin as thread. Her small body shuddered with each gasp. And in those eyes I felt something that tightened my chest. A fragile trust, unreasonable and absolute. She had no one. She had only me. My heart pounded. Sweat slid into the corners of my eyes. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to believe them. Then the stroller kid flashed before me, the round, honest eyes, the clear voice. The puppy's crying. If I walked away, I would not only abandon Sora, I would betray that child's faith. I would teach him that indifference is how adults survive. I could not do that. Suddenly, the crowd's warnings rose again. A man barked. Don't be a hero. You'll regret it. Another voice cut in. Touch it, and you'll be hit with fines. Regret? Regret for saving a puppy from burning on a metal bench? Or regret for ignoring the cruelty and folding to the crowd? I answered inside. If there's regret, it will be for doing nothing. I drew a long breath, swallowing the last of my fear. My hand lifted. The chatter behind me, phones clicking, muffled laughter, restless whispers, faded to nothing when I took the step toward the bench. Sora's eyes brightened, even as her body trembled. Her ears twitched, as if she knew. I felt it like a physical thing. She knew I was coming. She waited. In that instant, I understood the choice had been made. Not by me, but by that look. I would not turn away. So, under a burning sun and a cold crowd, I stepped forward. I moved closer to the iron bench, each step heavier than the last. Behind me, the whispers swelled, a cold wave pressing in. Don't do it, a man barked. You'll be in serious trouble. A woman's voice cried out, sharp with panic. But I no longer heard them. Everything dimmed except for Sora, the trembling Doberman pup, her tiny chest fluttering, those wet brown eyes locked on me. I bent down, heat blasting my face from the bench. The skin on my forearm stung just from being near, yet this small body had endured it for who knew how long. My hand shook as I touched the first strip of tape. It clung tight, jagged, sharp as thorns. I whispered, voice breaking. Easy, Sora. I'm getting you out. She flinched, her whole body tensing for an instant. I could feel her heartbeat, rapid, frantic, drumming against my palm. I kept my tone low, as if speaking to a child. It's all right. I'm here. The tape shrieked as I pulled. Each rip tore away black and tan fur, leaving specks of blood on fragile skin. My chest tightened, but my hands did not stop. The crowd fell silent. I felt dozens of eyes burning into me. Phones lifted. Heads shook. Yet no one moved closer. It was only me and Sora, locked inside this breathless moment. I peeled the strip around her chest. Sora's body jerked, her little legs curling weakly. I worked slowly, carefully, trying not to tear more than I had to. With each pull, she gasped, chest heaving harder before sinking limp again. Hold on, Sora. Just a little more. I wasn't sure if I was speaking to her or to myself. Sweat streamed down my face, dripping onto the tape. I pulled again. That ripping sound echoed, cold and violent, but with every piece gone, my heart raced faster. The man in the vest shouted, "You're insane! That thing could be diseased!" I didn't turn. My jaw locked. One front leg was free now. I lifted it gently. It was limp, but the tiny paw twitched at my touch. "That's it. You're doing so well." From the stroller came a squeal, pure and bright. "She's better now." I heard the mother's breath catch behind me, as if she too was caught by the look in those eyes. I worked at the final strip. It was wrapped tight around her belly, clinging to every strand of fur, every wound. My hand trembled, afraid of causing more pain. Sora didn't resist. She was too weak to fight, too drained to struggle. Only that thin, rapid breath pressed against her chest. And then, the last strip came free. Her whole body collapsed into my arms. Weightless, startling, as if I were holding an empty cloth, not a living creature 3 months old. I pressed her to my chest, felt her ragged breath warm against my shirt. Sora no longer had the strength to lift her eyes. She just tucked her head into my elbow, frail as paper. A voice from the crowd whispered, "My God, she's so light. She won't make it." I didn't answer. I only held her tighter, murmuring into her ear, "You're mine now. You'll never be alone again." The child piped up, eyes shining. "She's okay now, right?" The mother leaned down, her hand brushing my shoulder, voice trembling but steady. "Take her to the shelter. Right now. I'll drive you." I nodded hard. When I rose, the station seemed to fall silent. Faces that had been cold pulled back. Some turned away. Some slipped onto the waiting train. The crowd dissolved, leaving only me, the mother, the child, and a Doberman pup pulled from the edge of death. I pressed Sora close, felt the faint breath still there. One life freed from the burning bench. But the real fight had only just begun. The car slammed to a stop in front of the small shelter tucked away from the noisy street. The faded metal sign swung. The paint had worn thin. To me, in that moment, it shone like a gate to salvation. I hugged Sora tighter, feeling her fragile breath against my chest. The mother jumped out, scooped the boy from the stroller, and fumbled with the door. Inside, the air hit different. Bleach and antiseptic, dogs barking, the cold buzz of fluorescent lights. A young staffer ran out, clipboard in hand, a flash of alarm crossing his face when he saw Sora. "Oh my God, that pup! Get her inside now!" They hustled us into a cramped room. A steel table waited, draped with a white sheet. I sat Sora down, my hands still shaking. She lay limp, legs folded by reflex, head tilted to one side. A vet rushed in, mask half covering his face, but his eyes were sharp. He checked her eyelids, gum tone. His voice clipped but urgent. "Severe dehydration, weak heartbeat. But there's reflex. Start fluids now." Needles went in. A small IV bag was hung. The fluid ran, forming a bubble against her thin fur. I watched and felt something close to agony in my chest. Sora gave a little twitch. A soft whimper escaped her. It sounded like the best sound in the world. She had reacted. She was still here. The boy pressed against the doorway, clutching a fabric toy. His eyes were wide, fixed, as if his stare alone could keep Sora from leaving. The mother put a hand on my shoulder and whispered, voice wobbling, "She'll be okay, right?" I didn't dare answer. The monitor clicked to life, tiny beeps like a countdown. Fast, then slow. Each tone knifed at my ribs. I sat on a plastic chair, fingers laced, eyes never leaving that small body on the table. Time felt frozen. Her breath stuttered. Then it slowed. The monitor let out a long, piercing alarm. "No, no, no." I sprang up, my voice raw. The vet calmly adjusted the drip. An assistant checked her pulse. The room filled with a thick, sharp tension. A faint moan. Sora's chest twitched. Then she let out a paper-thin breath. The monitor steadied. Bip, bip, more even. I dropped my head, and tears came without warning. I hadn't cried for years, but that fragile heartbeat broke something inside me, and the dam gave way. "She still has fire," the vet said softly, his eyes easing. "But the window's narrow. We watch every minute." I nodded. I could only hold the tiny paw. It was soft, cold, but it had weight. I cupped it in my palm and kept whispering over and over. "Stay. Please stay, Sora. Don't leave me." The boy's small voice rose again, bright and steady in the quiet. "She's a brave pup. She's fighting." No one spoke after that. Nobody wanted to break the sentence. It carried a kind of faith grown thin in adults. Minutes felt like centuries. I watched every tiny motion, the twitch of a paw, the ear flick, the laboring breath. Each movement was a sliver of hope. Sometimes the heart rate on the screen dipped, and the room froze. I held my breath and gripped her paw. Then, like a small miracle, the line would lift again, weak but alive. The mother leaned in and whispered, "You did what none of us dared. Now we wait together." I didn't turn. My gaze stayed pinned to the little life teetering on the edge. I knew the real fight was only beginning. I wasn't a vet. I wasn't a hero. Yet I was in the middle of this war. In that cold, bright room, everything shrank to two rhythms, my heartbeat and the tiny pulse on the screen. If either stopped, the world would crack. Night at the shelter felt longer than any night I'd ever lived. I sat motionless on a hard plastic chair, back bowed, eyes fixed on the small body curled under a thin blanket. Only two things kept time: the steady drip from the IV bag and the monitor's faint, fragile beeps. Each beat tightened the knot in my chest. I was afraid. If the silence stretched for one more instant, I would lose her. Sora lay there, trembling beneath the cloth. Her legs twitched now and then, little jerks like dreams. I didn't know what she dreamed of, but I hoped it was something kinder than the burning bench where I'd found her. The boy clutched his stuffed toy and slept against his mother's lap. The woman beside me had dark circles under her eyes, but stayed anyway, patient as the night. She said softly, "That pup has spirit. I believe she does." I wanted to believe with her, but fear gnawed at me all the same. Time crawled. I whispered her name until it became a prayer. "Stay, Sora. You're not allowed to give up." Each whisper seemed to reach her. Her ears twitched. A paw shivered. Small reactions. Tiny life signs, but enough to keep hope alive. Then dawn crept through the small window. A pale gold slid across the wall, washing away the hospital's cold fluorescence. I looked up, surprised at how the light felt like a promise. At that moment, Sora moved. First, a faint twitch of a hind leg, then an ear. I held my breath. Slowly, she shifted her front paws. A tiny foot groped across the towel. I pressed my hand close. Suddenly, her paw found my hand, weak but steady. I swallowed hard. A tear fell on the back of my hand and ran down onto her paw. "Good job, Sora. You're still here." The mother roused the boy. He wiped his eyes, and when he saw what happened, he jumped up, voice cracking with awe. "Look, Mom, she's moving!" That bright shout lit the room. Shelter staff watched from the doorway, smiling quietly. No one spoke. They let the moment breathe. Sora tried to lift her head. She fell back the first time. The second time, too. The third time she held it, shaky but determined. Her brown eyes found me. We looked at each other. In those eyes, I no longer saw despair. I saw stubbornness, a small, stubborn strength in a life not yet ready to let go. I slipped my hand under her chest and lifted. She trembled, her whole frame wavering as if it might collapse. Her feet touched the towel, unsteady, swaying. Still, she stood. 1 second. 2. 3. The room erupted in breathy exclamations and soft claps. A shelter worker covered her mouth with her hand. The boy slapped his palms together, eyes bright. "She's standing!" he called, and the sound spread through the room. My ribcage opened. My heart pounded, not just from relief, but from exhaustion. I had held my breath all night. Now I could finally draw a long, full breath. Sora swayed, then sank down again. But there was no defeat in her face. She scanned the room, tail flicking, slow but sure. I leaned forward and pressed my forehead to hers. "You beat the night, Sora. You really are a little warrior." The mother wiped her eyes and whispered, "This pup. She was born to live, born to be loved." More sunlight poured in, coating her black and tan fur in a thin, warm glow. I realized then that the dawn had not only brightened the city, it had returned life to one small soul, and with it a new kind of faith to everyone in that room. That morning, when sunlight poured through the shelter window, the vet let me carry Sora outside. I held her in my arms and felt, no longer the frail flicker of something dying, but real warmth, a small life pulsing again. We stepped onto the patch of grass beside the parking lot. The green smelled of wet earth and morning. My chest loosened as if the city had exhaled. I set Sora down on the grass. She sat for a breath, legs trembling, then slowly planted her paws on the ground. The first step was lopsided, then another. Tiny feet met the grass, awkward and steady at once. The boy ran forward, arms wide. "Come here, Sora!" And then, a small miracle. The puppy that had been taped to a searing metal bench staggered toward him. With each step, my heart cracked into pieces, hurt for what she'd endured, and joy that she had won. When Sora reached him, the boy knelt and wrapped his arms around that little body. Her tail wagged, slow but real. One wag. A signal, alive. A signal, love. The mother knelt beside them and stroked her ear, voice shaky. "You're safe now, sweetheart." I watched, throat tight. In that moment, I understood. This family had found a missing piece, and Sora had found a home. The mother looked up at me. Gratitude and certainty shone in her eyes. "If the shelter allows, we want to adopt her." I couldn't answer right away. I bent and laid my palm on Sora's head, whispering, "You have a family now, Sora." Her eyes lifted to mine, not the pleading stare from the train platform. This was a quiet, gentle light, a look that said thank you without words. I stepped back and took in the scene. The boy holding Sora, the mother's hand on his shoulder, Sora nestled in their arms, breathing steadily. A simple picture, enough to make my chest ache with happiness. I saw again the red-hot bench, the cruel scrap of paper. She's not mine. Back then, she was trash, an object to discard. Here, in the dawn, she became part of a family. I understood clearly. The difference between abandonment and rescue isn't strength or law. It's the choice one person makes when confronted with a pleading pair of eyes. The mother said softly, speaking for all of us. No one should be treated like garbage, especially a small creature that loves and trusts. The boy hugged Sora tight and whispered into her ear, "We'll never let you go." I turned away, swallowing hard, not from sorrow, from the raw rush of too many feelings. As I left the shelter, the last image burned in my mind, Sora taking tentative steps on the grass, tail flicking, her eyes bright beside her new family. A life once shackled to a metal seat had found freedom, and a simple truth echoed inside me. Cruelty is loud, but compassion can be louder. That day, in noisy Los Angeles, I watched love choose to win. Some moments never leave the heart. Sora's eyes on that sunlit platform, locked on me amid the heat, are still there. I remember the tiny trembling of her paws, the ragged breaths against my chest, and the slow wag the morning after she took those first steps on grass. From a puppy taped to a bench and treated like refuse, Sora found a home. Yet the harsh truth remains. Out there, many other pleading eyes wait for someone who won't turn away. I wonder, if I had walked on that afternoon, would Sora still be here? And if we keep our silence, how many lives will be left without a chance to be loved? Sora taught me that sometimes the world needs only one person to stop. One person who chooses compassion over safety. Perhaps that is why this story has come to you today.